Let's bring tonight's meeting to order of the Finance Committee. Fred, do you need to bring the select board?
Joyce does.
Joyce,
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Select Board to order and start us off with the Finance Committee's agenda.
thank you. Okay. As our agenda, first of all, review and vote to approve the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Okay, to vote.
I wasn't here.
You were not here. Okay, is your name?
We accept the minutes as written.
Okay. A second.
I was there.
You were here. JD, you were not.
I cannot vote.
Okay. Okay, so we will go around for those people who were here. Tim, yes. Paul,
Yes.
Paul, yes. Gary?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And Joyce. Or one of you want
I don't think I vote on their minutes.
No,
This is fine.
Have we been doing them as?
I think we need to do it separately, like there will be ours.
Yeah, you guys have been doing that.
okay. Okay, the next piece of business for the Finance Committee and the Select Board is to discuss the submitted operating budgets for Frontier Regional and Whately Elementary School presented at the last meeting. I asked Pete to put this in because I felt that there was a lot of information that came out that evening. There was discussion and we may need some clarification or some thought as to what's being requested and the impact of those requests. So would anyone like to open that up regarding, let's start with the Whately Elementary School, because that is obviously nearest and dearest to our hearts and to our wallets. Yes.
I did have a question about that. The principal salary has increased 36%. And I was wondering what the reason for that was.
Okay, one of the things that we're gonna do here this evening, as these questions arise, Jess, can you make sure you capture them? In case we want to put them in another document to send to whomever needs to answer this.
It's gone up 36.4%.
I was looking at that, we were all at 100K previous years, and there was a dip last year for some reason.
Was that a new principal?
Well, same as, I think last year they funded out two different pools of money.
I believe you, yeah.
They might have used the ARPA salary.
That's what they did.
They funded part of
Yeah,
their salary.
SR.
matters.
Yeah, or ESSER, yeah,
I believe
But she has a
that's,
contract.
that's what they did, yeah.
yeah, because they were able to utilize the COVID relief funds as salary supplemental, so it helped reduce operating budgets while the person still received the correct salary.
Okay, all right. My other question on that is the paraprofessionals.
Just to step back, that do you still have the question or?
No,
You're good.
that's fine.
Okay.
I cannot, that's fine.
Okay.
If you go through the line items, with something that strikes you.
2330, the paraprofessionals, instructional assistant.
2330.
It's increased 97%. Now, is that because he did say that they needed two more?
That's the reason.
Yeah,
There
okay,
are two more one-to-one.
yeah,
Okay.
Assistants.
They have the needs for one-to-one, for some students.
okay, that's fine.
I don't have.
I thought that was.
It's after all.
And then in custodial services,
You did it last week, right?
4110.
which is 4110, there's an increase of 31%. I'm just wondering, Or did they increase in numbers at the school or what happened there?
Don't have an answer. So we will pass that along. I don't believe the custodial staff, operates under union contracts.
The question was, why is there more paraprofessionals?
No,
Oh, we
No.
took care of that.
What's the question?
custodial.
Custodial services
Yeah,
in salaries, there's an increase in salaries of 31.3%.
I know Dan's retiring this year.
Well, have they increased the number of custodians or cleaning people?
But there was also a $12,000 dip the year before.
Right,
Right.
yeah, so
They
it's
may be
same
funded
thing.
That same thing with,
Same
with
thing.
funding
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And I see there's something in travel. Why do they need to travel? When do they travel? They have travel expenses. It's
As
not,
professional
it's not very
development,
much, but
as part of
for
professional
professional
development.
development.
If there are any meetings for staff or even the principal. That would most likely be why they have to.
Okay,
Probably field trips, yeah.
all right, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, maybe these are the same, oh, does anyone else have questions for Wendy? And
How's Whately? Anyone have another question regarding the Whately line item budget?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Jerry.
So were you finished?
yes, I'm done with Wendy.
Sure.
Sorry.
3,300.
Transportation.
Why did that welcome it dropping $33,000 over the year? More in line with previous years, but something like that happened last year that's not going to happen this year.
I think the state is covering more.
Yeah, you can see that 35,000 is being covered through rural aid.
That's money in
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
Got it. On the 4220 maintenance of buildings, is that enough to take care of the elementary school? I've heard it's pretty,
43, 773.
right, you have, well, more the $33,000, it's in for general repairs. Well, actually, general repairs and supplies, it's 25K enough to keep that school where it needs to be. I don't have any inside difference.
Jerry, you could certainly tour the school like we did a year ago, but it was me and Jim Kirkendall and Tom Maher that went there. In a meeting with Bill Hildreth, who's director of facilities for all of the schools. His budget that he gets from us is the bare minimum just to have the fire alarms inspected and the bare minimum things that he has to get done. There's not much extra dollars for not just capital improvements, but any kind of repairs.
Right,
there.
yeah, it seems like it's a small amount to pay.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would compare to other schools. I think that's schools similar size and another town.
JD, correct me, doesn't the town tend to try to do the work itself as opposed to hire out for repair work?
Bill hires everything out.
Oh, he does hire everything out,
Yeah, it's the,
because I thought
It's only
he's
Keith
through
doesn't.
assist when they need certain.
Not inside the building.
Not inside the building, oh, it's just the grounds then, okay.
Yeah.
So, JD, did your group come up with any ideas about how much more it would take to bring the school up to a more satisfactory operating condition? Like ballpark?
no, we did not. But there's so much turnover in the board, maybe we should have another meeting over there so you guys can all put your eyes on it. It's going to be done there. There's a lot going on. And it's an old building. It's a 34, 35-year-old building.
Right.
Things are falling apart. It's gonna need a roof soon.
Yes,
The roof is bad.
the roof is the next project.
Yeah. They're getting the many switch, which is good. I didn't agree with it, but.
No.
But
Those
kitchen
will
problems,
be capital
yeah,
issues, not,
there's dents in the stucco all over the building where water is leaking in. They were fixing some doors. I don't know if all the doors got fixed, but some doors were getting done. he was slowly, as money came in, he was replacing the carpets with resilient flooring.
We've done it, yeah, as,
Yeah, he's
again,
worked on
as
those.
capital
Yeah.
items.
Doesn't
That,
matter.
that doesn't cover ongoing maintenance.
Ongoing repairs, right?
Yeah,
So the, third, the roof is,
they gotta replace.
I'm not sure. Can they just buy a walk-in cooler or something?
We did one there a couple years back.
Everything else is original, isn't it?
so the,
Including the
I
generator.
think, I know we did a dishwasher, I think,
Right.
and
And,
one or two other appliances. that did.
The school has a plan. Bill Hildreth,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
they have a plan on what needs to be done, everything, but I have yet to see that.
That'd be helpful to review.
the roof is 34 years old, or 30.
No, it was a shingle roof, then they put a metal roof on it,
Mhm.
but they didn't put a very good one on, and it's, the nails are
Yeah.
popping up and everything. So they were talking about putting another metal roof on, but for the lifespan, a shingle roof would be a quarter of the price.
And that's about a 25-year life, right?
Right.
Shingles.
Maybe that's a general question we can ask. What are the plans for the building itself regarding, upkeep and any kind of capital needs?
There's also accessibility issues at the school. I could go on and on, but they use the fire lane for preschool drop off and kindergarten drop off. It's gravel. There's no sidewalk for handicapped kids to get into the school through that access there.
Yeah,
It's not,
well, they were coming through the main entrance. Yeah. We have the little mats.
we get some blacktop and make a blacktop sidewalk.
Excuse me, but isn't there a fund that is sort of set aside for maintenance of these buildings? That money's put into it every year to build up.
No,
No,
There's no cities.
I mean, I'm thinking of this about town buildings too. And is this something that should be considered that,
like a stabilization.
it,
I mean, we
it
have
could
the
be, but
general
as of now, there's
stabilization
nothing,
But yeah,
no fund like that.
but shouldn't we be thinking about doing something?
well, I think there's two different questions here. There's maintenance and repairs
Yeah.
versus capital improvements. And stabilization typically is more for like capital improvements in
Right.
order to help offset like a large capital request.
Right.
The question that was started was, is 25,000 an appropriate amount to properly maintain and repair the building? And I
Right.
think that's where we really should get at is,
Right,
is that line item budget appropriate?
yes, but also, I mean, shouldn't we be putting money into some kind of fund every year? So that we don't next year have a capital, request for a large sum of money. If every year we put something into some kind of fund to maintain the building.
We have separate stabilization funds for a host of things. I think that's an excellent question. But I think it's a question that needs to come when we talk about capital.
Okay.
Yeah, and also there's a thing between what is a kind of repair and a capital issue.
No, I
Something
don't-
that, what is the rule? I don't know to speak. What is the rule? When something's a capital improvement versus a repair?
But there's a dollar amount.
Depends on the dollar amount.
Yeah,
Development and expected lifespan of the,
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
like a 10-year expected life.
and those have to go through capital improvement,
Right.
which we could fund out of free cash when we get to the end of our process here. We would opt to fund some of those things out of free cash.
So a capital improvement would be replacing the roof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should have a list of what they plan for capital
I agree.
before we start any funds for
They have a list.
Right.
Need it.
We just had,
them. We have it.
We don't have it. They have it.
They should have their own capital planning.
Yeah, we should have that.
So I think that's what we're asking for,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah. In addition,
We should be funding them out of monies in reserve if we don't know what they're planning on getting.
right, and we don't want it sprung on us at.
Right.
Right, and
Last
money
hour.
for maintenance should be on a yearly basis.
Right.
It shouldn't be set aside for maintenance,
Right.
No, it should be done.
With
That's why we
in
have it in
each
the
year.
operating budget.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I have a general question, just, could we find out what they mean by building security? And I see we have a rubber stamp. It's not a lot of money, it's $7,500, it was $8,200, now it's at 7,500. But what
Where do you
is
see
that?
that? Sorry.
4225.
Okay. Next to last page,
That might be the fire alarm system.
probably.
Probably.
Is there an Ansel system?
Fire alarm
location?
and sprinkler.
Sure, there's an Ansel system location.
That would make sense.
It would be good to know, obviously, what that expense item is for, but also it would be good to know what is the security in the building for the inhabitants of the building.
Yeah, I don't know, but my guess is that's mostly fire.
You're talking more like video security monitoring.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's cameras in the building.
yeah.
Well, it says here that it's expenses for testing. So I guess that's testing fire alarms and other things, right? And then inspection
Yeah.
and sprinklers and then inspection.
Generator.
We've had troubles with that. All along. We've had leaky pipes, troubles with it. It's a dry system, but it was a wet system for a while, all the way through.
Jeez.
We just went through the major on it. We spent a lot of money on that, going through, putting in the new heads and. all
Right.
that.
Right.
I have a general question on the budget with that. Is there a, similar to the regional high school, is there an excess and deficiency account for the elementary school?
No, it's covered through the town budget. Frontier has its own separate budget, which their excess and deficiency is equivalent to the town's free cash.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, but no, the school is really under our budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Any other thoughts? All good? Good. Okay. Okay. That does it for Whately. Unless we want to throw something else on the list. You can always come back or if something jogs remembering the things. Frontier budget, now. Understand that we have, obviously, we have the right to ask any question we want. Because they're asking for monies from this town. But also understand that our impact on the budget, does not meet the level of the year. From impact, so what we cannot do is pretty limited, but that said, if you have a question of their line items,
Well, I have a question,
Sure.
and I'm sure you all can answer, because this is my first time. Circuit breaker. Now, I know what a circuit breaker is for individuals when they're applying, their IRS tax returns. But the circuit breaker in this instance, does that mean it's a reimbursement for disabilities?
breaker,
When you look at their budget, there's a line that says circuit breaker.
what number you,
Well, for example, let's just take testing.
oh, I see, yeah.
Let's just
Still
take
plenty.
2720, testing and assessment. Is circuit breaker a reimbursement? for
Yes,
disabilities?
yes, that's where that's getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have another question, and I'm sure you can answer this. They're spending over $300,000, and they've been spending that now for every year on testing and assessment. 2720. Over $300,000 on the testing and assessment. Is this a state mandate? I mean, this seems like a huge amount of money to me to be spending on.
MCAS,
What?
MCAS testing?
Primarily,
Primarily, yes.
But it also the majority of that 343 is salaries for guidance.
Right.
Yeah, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're guidance counselors? And then 242,000 for guidance counselors. How many do they have?
I think there are three. I think.
Should.
I know they have
Likely is in
two.
the report that they gave us.
They could have three.
Then there's something about out of district tuition. Is that from? Let's see, where's that?
I think it's-
At the very end, tuition to non-public schools.
What number you want?
The very,
Last
the
page.
very end, 9,100.
Tuition to out of district?
If it's out of district, I guess that's like school choice and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
But
Right.
to non-public schools, what,
Yeah.
does that
I
mean
don't know, but
charter school?
my guess is those probably related to special ed students.
Yes.
That would be correct.
But it's,
Yeah, out of
Covered
district
by
is special ed students who
Right.
cannot be properly taken care of within the school.
Okay,
They have to go to a facility that can meet their
Right.
needs.
right, okay. We have any idea how many of those kids there are? That's shocking.
We do not.
There's nothing we can do about it.
I know,
Yeah.
Child enters the district.
Believe
They
me.
have an IEP or they don't, or there's nothing we can do about it.
yeah, it's the same thing with the IAs coming in next year at Whately Elementary.
Yeah.
You could bring a school choice kid in, because there's an opening for the 5th grade, and you find out that they're severe disability, you don't know until they show up on day one.
Yeah. That's, I think a general question, then let's,
what's collaboratives mean? Expense tuition to collaboratives, what does that mean?
To cut to school.
collaborative.
It's in that
Collaborative-
same,
collab-
it's in that same sentence.
Right, I see it, and it is $70,000, come down quite a bit.
It looks like there was a 1-year bump for something.
Yeah. The collaborative, it has to be a collaborative education group, but let's ask that question.
So what are the two
That's
questions?
9,100 to 9,400 out of district tuition.
To collaborate.
And what are
Sorry, so
it's expenses for
Yeah.
tuition to collaboratives.
right, but what
What
are
are
your
they-
questions?
well,
What's your
What are the
question?
collaboratives?
What are the
What is-
collaboratives?
Yeah,
What are the collaboratives that we pay to?
I mean, it's not a lot of, well.
Well, it's not school of choice, that's for sure.
No. A tuition to a Massachusetts schools, is that school choice?
That is,
Yes,
And then I assume the other one's charter and other, right, other places where the kids with disabilities would come. Okay.
well, they can be charter or they can be special facilities or special ed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I said, yeah.
Can I go back to my question on
go ahead, Chair.
excess and deficiency fund? I noticed in the report,
What's the number?
I don't see it
Okay.
in the budget, but the report speaks to using 200,000 out of the excess and deficiency fund. So that the burden to the 3 towns, or the multiple towns, sorry, will not be as extreme. I'd be interested in understanding how much money is in that excess and deficiency fund, and maybe knowing what it is over a period of a couple of years.
Right.
Just going
Well, I
up,
can tell you
down.
what it is,
Okay.
because they do have to report that.
In general, they use it the way we use free cash.
Yeah,
Right, you can largely pay for capital, which is why there's no capital assessment this year, they should fund what they're doing out of excess and deficiency and school choice.
Got it. I'm just wondering if they could subsidize or dip into that more so that the burden to the towns.
We can,
Less.
Well, there's a question if you should operate that way.
Right,
Same on the town side.
right, it's not considered fiscally prudent to go into free cash for the town or excess efficiency for the schools to pay for current operating expenses. Those
Right.
generally are treated as stabilization type funds, more for capital. We have had a tradition here, recently using 200,000 from free cash for that. It's not the best accounting practice that there is.
Right, I understand that. The question is, how high is the level of free cash, relevant to my question, to the percentage of the budget? And so in the case of Whately, with $1 million in free cash, you, against a $7 million, $8 million operating budget, that's a pretty high value compared to some of the other-
problem you get
some of the
into
other towns.
when you do that is you do it 1 year, and then if you don't have that level of free cash the next year,
Right,
you suddenly have a big
Right,
big bump
so
in
fiscal year 24. Money came out in 25, the amount, I think it was a couple hundred grand. Actually increased the money that was left free cash, so I believe it's been increasing slightly.
Well, this past year's free cash, it's at $1 million, mostly because of 2 or 3 one-time shots that boosted it. It usually comes in around 600,000 or so.
Okay.
And usually traditionally we've taken it down to about 150, 175.
we get pretty low.
Okay,
At the beginning of beginning of each fiscal year, and then it will build up again for the next cycle. This year is an unusually large amount
got it.
in free cash.
But it's not something to be expected.
Right,
To answer your question.
and it will not be repeated next year, because
Yeah.
those things are not there to
No,
come
no,
back
that's
next year.
very helpful. Thank you for the color on it. I'm
The,
always thinking back to the discussion we're having on the schools, and you're trying to find something to help improve the
Yeah.
operation.
But the biggest balance we have to make here is between operating and capital, and trying to treat them as separately as much as possible. Because capitals are one shot long-term, and operating is gonna be this year, next year, and the year after.
Yep.
And if you use a one shot to fund them, then down the road, you have trouble.
What I understand.
Well, it sounds like the schools are gonna be in the position they are in now, for at least another year or two.
720,000,
What is 700?
they're accessing deficiencies.
And they're gonna use
Essentially, they're free.
200K of it for this year's.
All right, let's move on.
Are we good? Any other questions?
Talk about this all night, not accomplish it.
Well, that's true. Okay, so we are now at the, we're gonna review the operating budgets for 4 departments. So I'm gonna turn that over to Pete.
Yes.
Give us, tell us where you're going.
We'll start historical commission, which is CRS 8, it's in tab 7. It's the last sheet in tab 7. This is the budget request for the historical commission. They're asking for level funding, which is that has been 200,000 in the past, an appropriation of 200,000. Sorry. We are building housing, historic housing.
A lot of this.
$200. To allay all fears. They just ask for a level funding.
Right.
They just want to be level funded, $200.
Yeah. And it's for minor things, if they are doing any mailings, if they have to hold a hearing, 2024, they did not need to use any money 2023, they used $37. Small amounts, but yeah, it's just to keep them
And
level.
we should note, this is not a historical society,
Correct.
they are
Historical Society is not
Very
now.
Right.
very good. We good?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
If not, we will go to tab 6, sheet GG 19.
Tab 6. Oh, that's one. Okay.
The housing committee is charged with making recommendations, providing guidance on housing, but also providing recommendations to the CDC when it comes to use of the community preservation fund for housing. Because you can use for 3 categories, one of them being housing. So they do provide recommendations to that. Actually, a majority of the committee also serves on the housing trust, which is charged with overseeing the housing trust fund in the housing trust bylaw.
And the housing committee has not been meeting regularly. It's been very small, 3, 4, 5 people, of which 2 of the most active people, one moved out of town and the other simply didn't have time to continue being chair. So there hasn't been liaison to it. There hasn't been a chair for the last 6 months and no one willing to take it on. So we just sort of sat there.
Right,
We're working right now to resuscitate it.
but it doesn't look as though they've expected much in the past.
No, there's been no one there to expend it.
The committee did request level funding, so keeping it at 500. Any question?
Yeah, makes me think about affordable housing, which is something
Yeah.
that the CPC has
Yeah.
to deal with. And has there been any movement on affordable housing or any numbers of or any planning for increasing affordable housing?
There been all kinds of thoughts about it. It's very tough in this community where we don't have, the planning board is some things revolving around those accessory housing units. We have the housing committee it sort of exists to be on the lookout for properties that might be used for habitat type housing, and thus far there has been nothing that's come onto the market. There are a couple of properties that we looked at that either turned out not to be suitable or the owner of the property didn't want to sell.
So what would be a good metric to assess the amount of housing, affordable housing in the town?
The official way that it's done in Massachusetts is, there's a subsidized housing inventory, which is the inventory that is used to determine whether or not your community complies with the 10% requirement.
Right.
There's a requirement that every community has 10% of its housing stock dedicated, and the key word is dedicated as affordable housing. Dedication means that either the property sale or the property rental must be restricted to affordable. It cannot simply be priced affordable in 1 year and then the rent raised the next year, because that's fluctuating. It is not dedicated. So it does require either a deed restriction or a lease limitation based on the income of the family or the renter.
So affordability is based on income.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
There have been suggestions in the past, the housing committee has considered involving rent or other affordable housing subsidies. The problem there is administration. We have no staff to administer it. So if someone sends in an application that needs checking, background checking or income checking, we don't have staff to do it. It's gonna cost more than we're gonna be giving out just to do the administrative work.
Right, you can outsource that.
It will still cost you more, probably more
Yeah.
money than it will, and we'd be giving out in subsidy.
So do we risk incurring any penalties for not having?
If you're not penalized, what you are is you're subject to what's called 40B development, meaning that a developer could go and propose a project within the community that goes beyond the limitations of the zoning bylaw because of the fact that we don't meet the requirement.
Right.
The reality is we still, when you are a non-sewer community, the potential is minimized because it's much more difficult to develop multiple units all on septic and still have the availability of land for that septic as well. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, it just the development cost, which is also a reason why we have right, exactly.
I hadn't thought.
It's very, very difficult for small towns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To
Well, good, thanks.
to build affordable housing.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Pete,
Next budget is town moderator, it's in the same tab, just go back a few sheets, it's the 11.
Joyce, don't listen for this.
It's such an odd figure,
This,
the extra dollar.
because of the COLA,
transportation.
it was the COLA. So when the COLA was applied, it only raised it $1. So this budget is simply stipend, which is based on what we will be recommending as the stipend and compensation for all elected officials. So this budget has no expenses other than the stipend.
Right. Sorry, Joyce.
And then if we're okay
Any
with that.
questions about town moderator? No. Okay, good. We are all set with that.
We'll now move on to all of the ones that fall under select board administration. So we'll start with tab 7, which is the CRS tabs. We're gonna start with the CRS 1. I am presenting this. This does not mean that we operate it. It's just that we are assessed this fee. This is the Tri-Town Beach assessment.
Okay.
It's
Better
CRS
go
1.
with
in
CRS, first 7. Okay, we're on CRS. Okay.
Tri-Town Beach has requested the assessment for Whately at $11,301, which is an increase of $893.
Okay,
What do they cover? I mean,
They operate the Tri-Town Beach.
right, so they have lifeguards?
Yeah, it's their staffing, they own that property, it's not a property any longer, it was sold to the district, so the Tri-Town Beach district owns it, so they have to do all that property maintenance.
and they want to put a dock in.
That's their
I
capital.
read that, that's their
Right.
capital improvement.
They,
Yeah.
they didn't come before us, right? They're
Hmm.
not coming before us.
That's what they're doing
Oh,
right
right,
now.
the question last year and prior was, how many Whately youth residents utilize the beach? We never got that answer.
No. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you want me to ask them that
We've
question?
asked them before, yeah, they just. can still-
Ask if they can tabulate, find that out, because they have day passes, right?
Don't
How
you,
many people live at Whately?
don't you have to show an idea
You
or
do.
something
You
when
do.
you go
But
there?
if they,
But
Right,
Keep track.
we had 1,500 Whately visitors this summer, okay.
Yep.
What if there was 5?
right,
Okay,
for $11,000.
Yeah.
I also don't know if they break it down by discrete,
Well, when they
different
take-
number
when
of
they-
different individuals or number of total.
The person at the gatehouse must know how many people.
Well, no, is
They
it
said
one
that
person
happens.
going 60 times during the summer? Is it that's.
Understand, yeah.
They do it with a car of 10.
yeah.
Also, I'm concerned about the water quality. Is that part of the regular maintenance?
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay,
Yeah, they do test the water.
they do test the water.
Yes, they must have.
And I will say on both for general Tri-Town and their capital, Joyce, I believe you were there with me when we did the walk around.
Yeah,
The Tri-Town Beach Commission is doing really an excellent job in trying to revitalize the
That's good.
facility.
Yeah.
They start taking great care care with it and paying much more attention than formerly where it was paid.
Yeah, it was in the dumps for a long time.
It was, and it is much better now, and, you know, with a new dock and others, they're doing things to making arrangements with local camps and the like for to get revenue that way.
It's a good facility.
It's a good facility that had gone well downhill, and,
Yeah.
but the people who are working it now are doing a good job.
I have a question. Is there handicap accessible areas? I've never been there.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is handicap, so it's all at ground level, it's all handicap accessible.
So to maintain good quality water, they either have to shock it with chlorine or they have to aerate it with air, which I don't think they do either, do they?
But they would have
It's-
to maintain it.
It's a spring fit.
Yeah, I don't know that they're
Oh, it
using
is.
chlorine, but there might be
It could
Right.
be
aeration.
like
It
that.
doesn't have an inlet or an outlet. It's just, it's
It
spring
evaporates. At the same rate that it fills up.
I guess. Yeah.
What a coincidence, right?
Fresh water, all the time.
You know how they built them? You know,
Yeah,
why
the
it
road.
happened, right, for the,
Highway.
Cut and fill.
exactly. Okay, any questions on Tri-Town Beach? Remaining, okay?
We'll move on to CRS 5. Actually, this one, we're not going to review only because, the senior center is being presented on April 1st. Nope. I'm kidding.
But it's not tonight. I like the 18th,
The
I feel
18th.
like, or the,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the 18th because it was the other board department that moved to April 1st, so it's
That's-
next week that you'll see. the
That's
senior
Pete
center.
smoking nervous. Yes.
So-
Would it be out of order for me to say something about the new building that they're hoping to have?
I would wait until we talk with the senior center. When they come next week.
Well, I've been to a presentation, we were in a presentation
Correct.
together. And they're talking about $15 million,
16.
15 or 16, and which
Six-
building we're talking about.
$16 million. And look, I'm a senior.
You
I-
are not.
I would like to say that I think this kind of thing, and I know this, the select board are working with the senior center. I think this is a luxury for seniors. It's not something that's essential. It really is a luxury. I mean, it's true, they have an office and a building, which is too small for their programs. But there are other facilities in the 3 towns where they can have their programs. And I just think it really would be a luxury to spend 16 million just to have a building where seniors can go and have their exercises and have programs.
They're here on
But
the
we
18th.
don't.
Yeah, Paul, I would
Yeah.
suggest that the conversation wait until we have that, because that's where we're also talk about capital requests. will not be-
I went to that presentation.
But they're not planning to
But
do.
I would focus on the ones that we're gonna.
They're not planning to raise the money until the following.
Correct.
So they're not going to ask for money in this.
We will have many questions for them when they come in front of this group.
No.
So
And there will
make
be,
no mistake about it.
when they have a firm proposal, there will be many public hearings as well.
Yeah.
Yes, there will.
Fred, is there something on that, future highway garage?
We're waiting to hear back from the consulting engineer. They gave us they gave us a plan. We said, please give us a realistic one. We're not waiting for that.
And we're gonna get to that
When we get to.
in the
highway.
capital,
Right.
so.
Everybody,
Everybody, ready to go. See what happens when you don't have a meeting, you skip a meeting, right?
All right,
Okay.
stay
Next.
on task. The
Yeah.
next sheet is CRS 7. So just a couple sheets forward. This is veteran services. These are also essentially assessments that we pay to, the upper valley. There's a slight increase to the regional veterans agents of $156. A reduction in the allowance that they requested for veterans benefit based on how many they believe that they needed, and then a slight increase on the grade marker, due to the cost for grade markers, so. In total, it's actually a slight reduction over last year at 10,370. Any questions?
Do you recall what the bump was, 24 to 25?
It looks like we started doing the allowance for veterans benefits in 25.
Okay.
Because you see that that one was a zero, it had been a zero until 25.
Yeah, right, okay. I see that.
What is the allowance for?
Anybody?
Veterans,
I honestly cannot tell you what that allowance.
don't know.
I think these are veterans from Whately and,
Yeah, so your veterans agent provides services for any veteran within your community when it comes to like planning or getting benefits, veteran benefits. They help with that type of thing, recognition of veterans in the community. They provide a wide range of services for the veterans. But yes, it's specifically their service, the veterans agent supporting Whately veterans.
The agent used to come and present what they did, but over time, it was a no-brainer. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't
They
question.
do everything for the town, all their parades or military and all that.
Yeah,
They're there every one of
they do
those,
some great stuff,
all on their own time.
you know.
and I just wonder what's gonna happen with that whole situation.
What situation?
Well, them cutting, the government cutting back.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Pete.
We'll go to
I wouldn't
tab,
worry about it.
we're gonna go to tab 6,
Tab 6.
and we're gonna do GG1.
Tab 6. GG1,
GG1 is the select board and administration
yep,
budget. This budget, the personnel, like all other ones, we did not adjust yet until we go through personnel committee, but general expenses. There's a slight increase here. The primary, I made a number of adjustments here. The increase in the dues and meetings, but also decreasing the mileage in meetings. Essentially, we had 2 meetings line items. So the idea was mileage and meetings is supposed to be strictly for mileage reimbursements and meetings that are related to that, whereas dues and meetings are dues for memberships, any conferences, things like that, that are more professional related as opposed to just day-to-day operation. So I corrected those so that we can track them better. Advertising, recording, last year it did, the recommendation here is a slight increase only because when we look at 2024. We spent quite a bit. It's very difficult for the board to know definitively how many public hearings they're going to have because it's based on actions that happen during the year. So just as a caution, a slight increase there to 1,000. Newspaper subscription, we are not, the 250 that we were appropriated this year is not enough to cover. So thankfully, we just moved within the line items, but the 325 is an accurate subscription cost, and that is our subscription to Reporter. No change to Memorial Day ban. The town meetings, we are zeroing out that cost. There is no cost for us to do town meetings, so that needs to be zeroed out. The annual town report is a significant increase. The reason being that some of this was actually paid out of the town building operating, which it shouldn't have been. It should have been paid out of the select board one that produces it. However, 750 does not cover the cost of those nice books. We do nice annual town reports. So this 3,000 is an estimate based on a quantity of 125 with our previous provider. However, we are looking at using Massport, the correctional office, correctional facilities.
Yeah.
They do printing, they do annual reports, they do binding. It would be a significant reduction. We don't have a number until we're finalized. However, although I would like that we do a 3,000, we most likely are not going to have to use that much, but just in case,
Okay,
but that's why it is simply a record keeping correction, because you will see we do a correction in the town building fund. Because it will go right here.
gotcha. Okay. Any questions regarding select board? Oh, administration?
We'll move to the next sheet, GG2,
Legal,
legal and financial advisors. KP Law is our legal counsel, keeping that at level funding. You can see in 2024, we expended about 7,000. We don't really get up to the cap, but it's always good to have the money there in case we have other legal challenges that come up. Keeping the legal and recording fees at 500. Financial advisors, this one goes back and forth, but 1,300, it's actually this is with 2 financial requests. Forget 675, yeah, 675. So this is anticipating 2 of those, so at 1,300. But zeroing out the bond council, would be needed for this year. So
What's the purpose of the financial advisor consultation?
I've used the financial advisor before when we went out to bid for our water department projects. They kind of oversee it, they do the procurement part of it. And they put the bids together, for the office, and they just kind of keep track of basically the financial procurement part that was really, important.
but with that, it's a reduction of 2,200 on this.
which is nice. Which one?
Next sheet we'll go to is GG4, so skip the town clerk, and we'll go to the town accountant. This is an updated one that was handed out to you tonight. So just to give you a background, the town has been utilizing the FERCog's accounting services.
Yeah.
That was an assessment. The FERCog is canceling that program at the end of this fiscal year, so we have to shift into hiring a part-time town accountant. So it does, you're gonna see a couple of increases here. The first was when we were under the FERCog, we were getting a free licensing for the accounting software. We're losing that. They used to get a very reduced group licensing fee, but now that is no longer under group licensing, each town that is now exiting from the program has to do the accounting software themselves. And that cost is 12,733 for next year. Then I asked Dara, who is our town accountant through FERCog, to give me some estimates on department expenses. Things like printing, all of her expenses in the office, similar to our other department. That was estimated at or requested at 3,265. And then this dollar amount for the salary has not gone through personnel committee yet, but it is based on if we were to increase the town accountant to 15 hours at 43 and change, it would be a $38,000 salary, essentially. At 15 hours, it is non-benefited, hence why it's $43 are currently anticipated. Again, it will go through personnel committee, non-benefited position. So it doesn't get those added benefits, which is why it's a slightly higher dollar amount per hour.
So that's our accountant at FERCog. No,
This is a proposal to fund a part-time accountant, which would be,
here.
it would now be a town employee.
Okay.
We would no longer be in the FERCog.
Okay,
program,
and
FERCog,
because there is no.
because
program.
there is no program.
There is.
FERCog's getting rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's the timing of all that?
the end of the fiscal year. So as of July 1, we have to have it accounting hired.
The part-time, you know.
Is there somebody waiting?
Yeah,
Dara is very open to, she's
Great.
also open to joining the other town that she services through
Mhm.
FERCog, so, but yeah, and we have so many years with her
Yeah.
that she knows our accounting, she knows our books. But yes, that, do you have any particular questions on this one?
I'm curious if the accounting software is an annual expense or one for that.
The annual subscription, yes.
Yeah.
It's not even if we can buy it and then use it for 5 years. and
almost
then-
every software company is going to annual license.
Ah,
Yep.
That's why I have a really old version of QuickBooks when I get. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
We will now move to the next sheet, GG5, financial audit. This is.
is there a new sheet?
No, nope, it's the existing one. This one, we always just appropriate 5,000, put it in for what the audit does happen, we just roll over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's continuing the $5,000 request.
All right.
Since the third party audit.
Correct, yep. We cannot audit ourselves. Anyway, it's GG9. Community development is a sub-budget under the select board. Hence why there are asterisks under the account number. It's just so that we can get greater clarity as to some specific line items for that community development. You will see that there is no increase here primarily due to the fact that on an operating expense or the general expenses, we don't really need to increase these advertising or programs and trainings. The 1,500 well supports that. Previous staff haven't necessarily utilized it, but the intention with the current staff is to start utilizing this, the programming and training and start using that money for some of our meetings that we're holding for community events. But then again, also the salary will go through personnel.
And just,
What's the role this person does?
They handle the grant administration for the town as well as essentially they act as the planner, providing technical support to the planning board and.
the reason for the fluctuation in the expended is at various points the position's been vacant,
Yeah.
so that money was appropriated but not expended.
Yeah.
You said they offer support for the.
Planning board and zoning board of appeals.
Oh, is this like the second person? Oh, that's.
They're technical.
Oh,
They're
just
the technical, so they're the one that reviews the bylaw, provide recommendation on whether what being requested is in compliance with the bylaw or not. So admin assistant, that's, I guess, secretarial.
Does research with the state for what
Yes.
things, what other
What
towns may have done, what is.
assisting with
required.
bylaw revision, things like that. Any questions on GG9?
No, so it's more accounting than legal. The function is more accounting function than a legal function.
No, no,
They're sourcing grants.
they're sourcing grants, they're applying for grants, but they're also providing technical support to our land use boards.
All right.
Making sure that we get.
Hopefully more than 55K grants.
Yes.
Our experience is substantially more is coming
Yes.
through this position.
Great, okay.
GG11 is the next one that we'll have. Oh,
We did
we did do
moderate.
that, thank you. So this is the town building operations budget, town building operations, funds. Some cross department, but it also funds specifically the properties of the town offices and town hall. Under personnel, you see a line item for custodian, which is the custodian that we use for the two buildings, as well as plowing of the town lots, which we utilize the water department. The water department has a plow. And so we offset, they use their plow in order to plow our lots, and we have a line item to cover that cost. As far as expenses are concerned. Under town building, we funnel all of the costs for our gas, the natural gas, the propane. The vehicle fuel, electricity, telephone, winter maintenance is. You're gonna see a line item correction here, so this winter maintenance, I have an asterisk there because we are moving winter maintenance to the highway department budget. So that $3,000 is being removed here. It was difficult to manage where essentially the town administrator oversees this budget, but the highway department handles the staff to go or the contractors to go and makes those calls, so. We want to move it, and just clean it up, so. Zeroing out winter maintenance. Also, just to go back, natural gas fuel. Last year you had appropriated 14,000, but based on our usage, the request is 12,000, so reducing that down a little bit. The electricity costs seem like we're okay. We are under a community aggregation, so thankfully, our electric supply is locked in at a locked in rate. It doesn't fluctuate at the whim of Eversource. And the HVAC contract, that is handled separately. We don't really have a contract. We instead use, do its on repair requests. And
Regarding electricity,
Mhm.
what happened with solar panels? Are they,
It's underway. The solar panels will be installed on this building. We just got the revised plans today. That project was already approved and funded, but, right now it had to be redesigned because we are doing a generator on the property, which means we didn't need the batteries. And so it means that we were able to add even more panels and larger producing panels, which we got and all within budget. We just needed to get a revised design that now Eversource needs to re-review and re-approve. But we're good on that budget. It was grant funded. That grant, we keep having the state move the monies to the next fiscal year. Thankfully, we're not the only town that's on a delay because there's been some solar panel review delays in a lot of.
so eventually that will go down, that electricity.
Well. Yes and no, it depends on your electric production does not go directly on site. You are simply producing and sending it into the grid. Your building is still utilizing electricity that's coming from the grid. So you don't use it here, so we don't offset it, though you do get a credit. So we're gonna own our solar panels. And so essentially, yes, but we will also we'll spend, but then the electric will offset it and give us a credit on the account. With the additional panels, hopefully, we're producing more than we're actually demanding.
Yes. Right.
Yep.
Peter, I have a question about the grade school, and they have a mixture of heat pumps, and I believe it's natural gas heat, right?
Could be.
Well,
I couldn't tell you
I
that
figured
detail,
it's
but
natural gas.
they paid for that out of their own operating budget, not out of our budget.
I was just curious if anybody's keeping track of how much the heat pump supply and how much the other fuel supply and whether it was.
Could be, but that would be the school department, that would be
The school.
tracking that,
And then
yeah.
The Hildreth, right, Shelley.
Yep. Yeah. So moving on, miscellaneous repairs. Last year budgeted 4,000, but in 24, we only expended 1,700, so suggesting a slight reduction there. Fire safety, keeping that level. Town hall lift inspections. The cost for inspections is going up, so just needed to increase that to 2,000. We do have to do annual inspection of that lift.
Yeah.
Let's see, water, keeping that stable. all other line items, so the next one that's a change is. The copier maintenance agreement and supplies, this is for when we are using and printing, You can see there was a significant use in 2024, 6,600. Only appropriated 3,000, we need to increase that, we're kind of eating into it with other line items.
Peter, if I may, what do we use $750 water for? There's no showers, there's no laundry, there's no sprinklers. What you flush the toilet 10 times a day? It's on this building.
What was that question again?
We have a
Where the
$750
water usage.
budget for water. What do we use the water for?
Here?
Yeah,
Here, and I assume town hall.
oh, that's true, this it covers both buildings.
Yeah, but my water goes out, I have a family of 4.
Well, I know the water department, the enterprise fund, a couple of years ago. Came to the realization that all the town buildings, the water being used to all the town buildings was not being reimbursed. So that's what we have now, so there is a charge, the same thing happened with Frontier. Town of Deerfield finally realized that, you know, Frontier was using the water and the water was being donated. So, God bless you. So. But I think that leads to another question. This budget includes all town buildings, correct? Not the
Some-
school.
Some.
Fire, water, fire, police, highway.
Some of them have their own line items for some of these items, such as like, we'll get to them, but for the most part, like. A lot of these are specifically just for the town hall and the town offices.
Okay.
All right. Like these copier leases, they're only for the 2 buildings, actually, the 1 building, The postage is only handled here.
But we could get to a point, but do we know what each building costs on their own to the town? Or have we not broken it down to that?
Not broken it down.
Okay.
We do have the separated electric bills.
Yeah,
If you wanna look
yeah.
at those. Or the gas bills, to see them separate, they are separated by property.
So do we pay a flat rate for water? Or does Wayne like read the meter and be like, okay, this is what it is?
I think it's based on actual meter reviews.
And there is also a
Yeah.
flat fee implemented to every town building
A flat fee?
from the water department, yes,
No.
in addition to the water usage.
Right.
Yes.
So.
Like an admin fee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't call it an admin fee, it's more like a service fee.
Okay,
But, you know, I think if I remember correctly, like the highway department, I think they might have a flat fee of $200, which is semi-annually. I would need to, I can get back to you and let you know what the town office is and town hall is, but.
Yeah.
There is a flat fee that they,
I think it would be good to put it in black and white, what these buildings are costing us, especially the old elementary school. That we still maintain, that we have not, even though it's on the market, we, in some way, shape or
oh, you
form.
mean the center school.
And the center school, right? You know, what does that school cost us on a yearly basis to maintain?
Right now, it's just insurance.
It's not being maintained at all.
Insurance. There's no heat in there, there's, obviously, it's not being used, there's no water, so it's just the insurance.
Just the insurance.
What's the insurance on that?
Wanna say, I just did the recall, like 4,000 something. Yeah, just under $5,000 or, yeah,
Somewhere close to
it
that.
is
Yeah.
at a higher rate because it's a vacant building. Vacant buildings are considered more costly on an insurance basis because you don't have people there to actively see something happen and stop a negative. So vacant buildings typically are higher insurance costs.
$5,000.
So it's for sale.
It's not for sale
It's
yet,
what we're seeing.
Any idea how large it is?
I forgot.
Just getting back to the question on affordable housing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was looked at for housing development, I think. 2 or 3 units.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was-
they were, we had bids in for someone who would buy the building for $1 and put in 2 apartments. And that got voted down. And because a group of citizens wanted to go look into other possible uses, there's a kind of a timeline on that that's coming up soon, and so we may very well end up, depends on how that work goes. They have a feasibility study that's gonna be starting. We need to pay people money apparently to tell us what we can and can't do with the building. I mean, I think it's just some people think that a lot of things can be done there that I think are unrealistic, but until we pay someone who knows what they're doing to say it's either realistic or unrealistic, then we won't really know.
When's that report due?
Well, we're currently in RFP right now we're soliciting bids to find a consultant, with the intention that the report would be finished by the end of the year.
And that study's been partially funded by a grant.
Correct. Half by a grant, half by a town.
Yeah, because they found $14,000.
Yep, and the other.
The seller.
So we spent $19,000 on that building this year.
That place ought to be torn down.
I know.
Dump it.
I know.
Yep. You're talking to the person who voted to let it become 2 apartments, okay? So,
Different
That's
subject.
right. Put it back on the tax rolls.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, back to the town building operations. There are otherwise, each of these other line items in the expenses, just slight adjustments. All of the adjustments are simply based on looking at what the actual expenditure was in 24 and that it may not have been properly or not. We might not have appropriated enough in 25, so just trying to correct that in 26.
Ready? Any questions?
Good job.
No, that's- Thank you.
For GG 13, the very next sheet. This one has a slight reduction of 750. The reductions here are looking at a reduction in the ongoing website hosting. Which if the capital request is approved, this will help because we would be moving to a different hosting service that has reduced costs. Also, email hosting and software subscriptions. I've been working with our IT company to correct our subscriptions and the anticipation with fixing what they've done. We could actually reduce that by 500 and then keeping the other ones at their status.
Any questions? Information technology. Thank you.
We'll go to GG 19. Few sheets ahead. We already did that one. Ignore me.
Yeah.
All right, the IDs are.
Insurance and benefits.
First one is IB 1. So property and liability insurance. This comes from Maya. So a slight increase of 4%, 4.12%, with the request at 101,000. Maya is our insurance provider.
Crazy.
ID 7. This is the assessment that we pay to the Franklin Regional Retirement System. The assessment request is 262,000, an increase of 7%. This relates to the number of employees that go into the system and employees that are retiring. It's just always going to be a steady increase.
How many years does a town employee have to work before they get retirement afterwards?
Yes.
Well,
Well, there's 10 years.
yeah,
And yeah,
You pay into the retirement system that you have money in the system, once you're starting to pay, but then once you hit 10-year. You then become eligible for the health insurance, right?
That's my.
Yeah, so then it's, yeah, you then become. I forget what you, tenured,
Yeah.
essentially,
Invested.
vested, yeah.
Yeah.
ID 11, right now. This is blank, only because we don't have an estimate yet for the retirement payout. For Keith, right?
No,
And that is it's the only anticipated retirement for FY 26, right?
only eligible one, yes.
It's the only eligible.
Yep.
Just Keith.
Yeah.
So he's,
Is this
you might have to
like
float a bond.
unused sick time and stuff like that, or unused vacation?
And
time?
vacation, yeah,
Or the way to go?
Comp time, vacation time.
Yeah.
Does that just keep accumulated forever?
certain ones do not, like personal is a use it or lose it, sick, yeah, I wanna say is capped. Sick is capped and vacation is also capped because you can only roll over a certain amount.
Yeah.
Comp time,
Comp time.
we're trying to amend that, but it is capped, but we're trying to amend it further.
So we don't have this down the road.
So comp time, if you are a 40-hour-a-week employee, you can accumulate up to 150 hours per fiscal year.
Okay.
So that could potentially be a very large liability for the town if you keep accruing that amount. For sick time, you can accrue 720 hours, I want to say. And then vacation, as Pete said, can only roll over 2 weeks.
Are those negotiated with the contract with the employer, or is that general town?
It's the personnel policy.
Yeah, it's supposed to, and that position also is not a contract
Yeah.
position.
Okay.
So right now, zeroed out, or not zeroed out, blank, we just need to come up with that number.
Right.
We'll move on to PS 7, which is public safety, which I believe is 8. No, 9. PS 7 is the Franklin County Inspection Services. So, the town utilizes the FERCog in order to handle our building department and inspectional services, so wiring, plumbing and building inspections, as well as those permits. The assessment is a slight increase over last year, at 78.73, so a 3.59% increase.
I'm the rep for Whately to that advisory board, and we meet quarterly. And they track the permit fees of the majority of the cost of this program.
Alrighty.
And then the last grouping that we're gonna do are the unclassifieds. So that is tab 12. We're gonna go through all 5 of these. U1, this is reserve fund. Historically, we've been appropriating 20,000 to this reserve fund. It's up to the FinCom really, if you want to continue to do 20,000. You can see the expenses over 22, 23, 24. Generally, it's not going over 13,000. We have not utilized more than 13,000 out of the reserve fund each year.
What comes out of that?
Unanticipated costs. So if something happens during the year where one of the departments has, let's say there was a plumbing emergency and their budget for the building repairs had already been capped out, they would come to the FinCom and say, can we get a reserve fund transfer of X dollar amount into our budget so that we can pay for this plumbing fix? It has to be an unanticipated cost.
This way, elementary could drop to 15, but.
What's that?
You get rolled back access to this.
Leave it at 20,
Yeah, absolutely.
this rolls back into.
Yeah.
I think so.
You're a bit,
Right, wouldn't Whately, yeah, Whately Elementary does have access to this because
Yeah.
that's what we did
yes.
recently.
It's one of the few
Yeah.
that you don't have to go to the town floor.
Yes.
Right.
You know, yeah, so.
Essentially, the town meeting agreed to give the finance committee with this amount of money, that then the finance committee has the sole discretion whether or not to agree for moving from it.
So this could be used for the school when there was some unexpected, like a flood or something.
Right.
Tree hits the road.
Is there a balance in the fund beyond the 20K?
No,
You know,
yeah, it gets emptied out every year.
thank you.
Leaves it 20.
Okay, any other questions from reserve fund? Okay,
You too. This is the FERCog assessment. So as a member of the FERCog, we have the assessment, which is the very first line item. That one is a very minor increase of $61, so 15,808. And then the second line item, we participate in the cooperative purchasing agreement where the FERCog handles some larger, primarily highway supply and service bid processes. It's great for us and a lot of the small towns because then we don't have to manage those contracts. Also, when it's the FERCog and they can show a much larger quantity being purchased, they can get a better rate. So we pay an assessment fee in order to be part of that program, and that program has a slight increase for 26, where it's $2,990, so an increase of $140. It's well worth it. Any questions on the FERCog assessments? U3. This is the fiscals and tests for employment. In 25, it was appropriated at 1,500. Requesting 3,000. You can see in 24, we spent quite a bit. This is primarily, we have the fiscals being done for our public safety and public service, so like the highway department, police, fire.
It's for new people coming
New
in.
employees, correct, yep. Yeah,
Is, have the fire department, presented their budget yet?
No.
So my understanding is that the fire department was supposed to be the one, having a line item for those physicals, because their physicals can get very costly. And I remember this being maybe why you saw an increase last year, is because certain, full physicals for a fire, fighter is much more expensive than just, I'm not sure if there's maybe a,
DOT physical.
yeah, there's some physical, that they have to take that is like a full physical, which I want to say costs us maybe around $650, $700, and it was very expensive, which our previous chief, maybe didn't do the full physical, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if the requirement changed anything, but I just, you might also see this in our new chief's budget, just in case.
we do. $700.
Oh, geez. So maybe something changed, or maybe he's doing something differently now than what was done in
Yeah.
the previous fiscal year.
Do we,
Yeah.
do we reimburse for DOT physicals for the highway guys or no?
I've never seen that.
Okay. You have to have it every 2 years, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have to have a DOT physical every 2 years of the commercial driver's license.
No.
I think Keith has talked about that.
It's a lot.
So, back on U3 though, the request is simply just to, in case, again, we don't know how many new employees we might have to bring in that would require testing. But increasing it to 3,000 just as a caution. Again, up for discussion.
It's there. If it's not used, it goes back.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Okay,
U4, town vehicles. So this is the fuel that's used for all the town vehicles, the gasoline, diesel. In 24, we spent about just under 39,000 on fuel. We appropriated 37,500 in the current fiscal year. Based on rising gas prices, right now, it's, the request is for 40,000, so a slight increase over last year. Of 6.6.
Also impacted by all the new hybrid vehicles we're buying.
Well, we only have a cruiser and then one pickup truck. So they just went into service. The pickup truck a couple months ago and the cruiser.
So there's just
a month
two.
or so. And those were the only hybrids that those are the only hybrids that we have, that cruiser and the
Yeah.
pickup.
Yeah, it's on now, yes.
Did you get the cruiser we authorized last year?
Sorry about
Didn't get the new police cruiser last year.
That was-
a small mistake. We took delivery of it.
And the final one is U5 educational incentives. There is no request right now for any educational incentives, so it's similar to last year's 0 budget.
I thought when the town clerk was here, she was looking to have some training in her budgets. She had some money.
Yeah,
But that was the cost to do the training as opposed to being incentivized to get trained. This is an incentive line item where you're paying the person to go and get training as opposed to the cost for the training.
So you pay them the salary, pay for the training, and then you give them a bonus on top of that for doing.
That's what these.
For
incentives
additional-
were.
Additional training.
Yeah.
Above and beyond what that is required.
I can give you an example of it. The town clerk position receives an educational incentive if they become certified through the Massachusetts Town Clerk Association.
Different, got it.
So they would receive $1,000 every fiscal year for that certification. That would be an example. Lynn Sibley used to receive that. when she-
But also to be clear, it's not to cover the cost for that.
No, it is
It's paid for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's for a certificate.
Salary folks are being more qualified.
Yeah, yeah. And thereby be able to provide better service to
Better
the
service.
community, yeah.
Okay, do we have any questions on select board and administration before we put that away?
No, sir.
Peter, you done?
I am,
Okay.
for now.
All right. Okay, the next piece on our agenda, review and discuss capital project recommendations for fiscal year. Again, we're gonna turn it over to Pete, because
It is the last stapled item in your packet with the title fiscal year 2026 capital projects report. This report comes from the capital improvement planning committee. The intention of that committee is to go and review all of the capital projects for the fiscal year and then prioritize those requests and make that report back to the finance committee. The way that they prioritize, they set 3 different criteria or 3 different rankings. Priority A are projects that are considered urgent, high priority that need to be done, that should be done if at all possible. Special efforts should be made to find funding for all the projects. These projects typically address safety concerns or compliance issues. Priority B are projects that are considered a high priority that should be done as funding becomes available. Typically addressing deteriorating facilities or scheduled replacement for facility or equipment. Then priority C projects are those that are considered worthwhile projects if funding is available, or that may be deferred to a subsequent year. Projects are worthwhile. These projects are worthwhile projects that do not meet either of the other 2 categories. There were a dozen capital projects that were presented to the CIPC. The second sheet shows you those projects that were, where they landed in the prioritization. There were 4 projects that were rated as a priority A. The first one is environmental monitoring in wells at the old landfill. This is a critical project only because DEP has told us that we need to do it. It is to install water and gas testing and monitoring at that old landfill on Long Plains Road. The estimate in order to do the drilling, the monitoring and the sampling is 20,000. That is a capital request. There will then be ongoing costs in the future for monitoring services, which will come through the Board of Health, but not at 20,000, but just to anticipate that this capital would require ongoing because we would need further monitoring in the future, simply going to those wells, pulling samples and evaluating whether or not there is any environmental impediments.
All
The
right.
second item, priority A is the air pack replacement request for the fire department. You may require, remember this from last year or the year before. The fire chief wants to and is requesting funding to replace 15 rechargeable air packs, 20 face pieces and 30 cylinders. At a cost of $183,000. He has been able to confirm that he can still get these at this price,
Possibly less.
and possibly less, yep.
Less is good.
Depending on
Right.
tariffs.
Right.
But right now, it still looks okay. The fire chief will be able to answer more questions when he is here presenting his budget on the first. Highway, no, we didn't,
No, we had him.
He's been in.
we had, yeah.
JP's been in. We talked about the air packs and.
Yes.
You know, we talked about
that.
what happened with the grants, and the grant kind of fell through, so.
Yeah.
So it's on our back to, you know, to provide these.
Right.
So,
The third project in priority A are the mini split heat pumps at the elementary school. This is phase 2 of 2, so the final phase.
Yep.
It's a request of 65,100 that would install 5 mini split heat units.
Mhm.
We then will receive a rebate, and that rebate goes back into the general fund. And I believe it's anticipated around 20,000 that would come back. But we do have to appropriate the initial.
And if
cost.
if this goes through, which I imagine it will, well, what's the time frame for doing
It would be done,
phase 2?
it would be done in the next fiscal year, so they would be approved to start as of July 1. Whether they can get it done during the summer, I'm not positive, but
Yeah.
Has there been a cost benefit analysis done for this?
The system is all screwed up.
I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know.
I mean, for the most part, these heat pumps are providing both accommodation or a conditioning and environmental improvement for
Yeah.
those occupants, but yeah, there might be an offset on the heating and the cooling, or there is no cooling except these, but the heating, but I'm not positive. If they did they most likely they were given that as part of their proposal when they were getting the proposal for the installation, but I don't have that answer. The last item is the storm window installation at the town hall at $7,000. This would be to remove the existing storm windows and install the new storm windows. This does not include the cost of the windows because that is being covered by the manufacturer. So this is simply to cover the manpower to remove and reinstall. These are storm windows that we've had significant issues with since they were first purchased and installed, where the film that was being used on them became problematic. We've removed them once before and reinstalled them. The manufacturer cannot determine whether or not there is an actual problem with the item, but they did agree to at least continue the warranty and replace the windows themselves. They will not cover the cost this time to remove and install. So this is simply to the manpower to remove and install, but not cover the windows. We will not, the recommendation is not to use that film any longer so that we do not continue this issue.
And also it falls under urgent because even that $7,000 or the money from the manufacturer to replace the
Is-
windows
Yeah,
is questionable, and we want to make sure we get it,
lock them in.
lock them in while we can.
Gotcha.
Priority B, these are high priorities, but not as critical as priority A.
Let me just say, well, just, excuse me. This grouping, there's an interesting story about the elementary school air ducts. For 10, 15 years, we sat here and we looked at the cleaning of those ducts coming under priority C, priority D, and we always pushed it off. Always pushed it off, and no one stood up and said, hey, this is a problem. Finally, this year, JD went over to the school with Tommy and Jim, and lo and behold, they had never been cleaned since day one.
That's horrific.
So it was low on the priority list. We kind of felt good because we just kept it there. It was kind of expensive. But if no one had raise the flag on this, then those kids would still be breathing
Recreator.
that kind of air.
There were dead
And the employees.
And the employees, exactly.
Wonder how many kids got sick.
So it's an important point in that you need to look at them all. That's my point. Okay, Pete, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So the first item on priority B is the redesign and new hosting for Whately.org. This is $10,000. It would cover the cost to redesign, redevelop the town website. Update not only its look, but also put it on a different hosting and content management platform, and also meet accessibility standards that we do not currently fully meet, and improve the navigation and organization on the website. When I refer to accessibility standards, I mean standards for those that are visually challenged, not necessarily blind, but challenged. Where if you do not have proper color differentiation, it's very difficult to read or see certain things. It also does provide for improvement so that those that are blind can still get auditory or text readout, and that then gets verbally translated by the computer. But there are a number of accessibility standards that are required, especially when it comes to public websites. But we're not quite there, so this would help us get to that.
So that 10 grand is a shot in the dark, or that's actually what it's gonna be?
Nope, I already have confirmed, and this is the lowest. There were other dollar amounts at like 50,000, but I found a great provider that could do it for the 10,000. And they've done a lot of the websites in Massachusetts.
Gotcha. Okay,
So one problem I have with the town website isn't really the town website, it's Unipay website. You know, when we're paying, that website drives me
We
crazy.
no longer use Unipay.
Oh.
I use a payment platform called Point and Pay now. So when you go on to the homepage of the town's website, you can click on a link that says online tax payments.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to lead you to a Point and Pay website, which I hope you are pleased with. Please let me know. Please let me know.
I will. Wonderful. Thank you.
The next project is the repainting of the lower level interior of the library at 14,000. This would repaint the downstairs level of the library, part of which had been damaged by water infiltration 3 years ago. The reason why it's at 14,000 is this is scoped with the anticipation that it's likely lead paint, and so the remediation that has to, and the protocols that have to be instituted for that.
During the mold associated with?
Probably.
We're gonna get to that.
I toured that with Bob Klinger, and he was telling me that they need to do the survey, the analysis before they can do the painting.
They don't have to.
They should have to.
That was a suggestion, but they do not have to.
Okay.
You can do them, this was part of the discussion with CIPC and the library. An
Okay,
acknowledgement that you can do one-off testing for each project, or do you wanna pay out now and do a full assessment?
And find out all the problems
Yeah,
that we then have
Uh-oh.
that you have to-
notice of.
yeah.
We then have formal notice that we have these problems and have to correct.
yeah.
But no, you do not have to do that. But it was recommended that if they are approved for this, repainting, the contractor that they're using will sample the paint first before just assuming, and if there is a determination that there is no lead, then they will reduce the actual cost. But this is because they haven't paid for the testing yet, this is just a worst case scenario.
Can you test for lead paint, like on our own? Do we need to have someone specializing in that to do that? Like, can we find that out? And I'm just a little shocked by the 14,000, but once you said lead paint, it does make sense. I just wonder how we can streamline some of these things that.
You can,
You
but
know,
I don't
offer
think
the
the state would
insurance.
accept your results.
Yeah, you can buy a little swabber stick to do a quick test, but you don't know for sure until it goes out to the water. They just.
But you can do that on your own.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think also the main cost here is remediation if there's lead paint. It's not the test itself that's costing that.
This includes the painting and the testing.
Is this on the ceiling or the?
The walls, the ceiling, floor, no, the floor, because that's, yeah.
Essentially, it's a building a high water table. And the water's oozing through the walls and blistering the paper. It's gonna have to forever.
Are we set with the library painting?
Yeah,
Okay,
The third one is repainting the building exterior of the town hall. This would cover the cost to scrape, prime, paint the exterior of the building. That is at 30,000. If you haven't been at the town hall, you'll see that the north side, which is the side that faces
Right.
the post office, is chipping.
And it was not repainted when it was renovated.
it needs it. There's
Did
no-
they
there's
pay
no
for lead
question.
paint when they? Did they pay for lead paint when they did that renovation?
Well, he just said that they didn't repaint it, right?
They did not repaint.
Oh,
So
so it's
they
like-
wouldn't have done
So
it.
does this 30 include, assuming it's lead paint?
How old's the building?
It's
Oh. 80 years.
That is a great question that we can ask, Keith when he is here on the first.
If you're gonna scrape, that's gotta be hot.
I went over to the architect's house and the municipal building committee when their whole system for doing it, they had no answers. And like the paint's gonna peel off that building. And then I got shut down. They just,
The last project in priority B is the new swimming dock at the Tri-Town Beach, 16,000. This is Whately's portion. It would be adding a 100-foot dock to the beach to improve access and safety. It would be a floating dock made of the same material that was used for the 2023 raft that they now use. Just to note, this is anticipated to be a CPA funded, that it went through CPA.
Very
or
nice.
CPC, so. Priority C. The first one is purchasing the trash compactor unit at the transfer station. Currently, we rent that unit. So the Board of Health has requested a capital money at 16,000 estimate in order to purchase either that current one or another refurbished model.
What's the benefit of purchase versus?
5-year payback,
Yeah,
you don't have a monthly fee.
you don't have the monthly fee.
Except you're
What about
responsible for
repair?
repairs.
That's
What
the
about
issue.
how old is the one we have now?
you
I think it's
Want to say it?
15, 18 years, something like that.
Yeah,
With a
The
projected
question is-
useful life of 25 years.
what we had with capital. Whatever box we buy, is it gonna be compatible with the next generation, or if we do, we're gonna fall behind on the compactor unit itself.
The other question,
Depending what-
is,
what will
if we
change.
do the highway department garage, what is there now, this unit compatible or something we wanna fit in, or would we want new?
Yeah.
At that point. In whatever, however many years that is, before
Yeah.
that gets done.
Use the whole thing, the
Right,
whole compactor unit itself in order to.
right, so,
Okay.
and we really didn't get a good number on what the annual maintenance would be.
That would be
Yeah.
important.
I don't
if
think.
Brand didn't have a firm, he said it was minimal, but yeah, he did not
He
get.
did not.
Only because the Board of Health doesn't have to pay for the maintenance, it's the company that they're renting it from that
Right.
handles all the maintenance.
Other ones are all
They have
problem-
contractual, but we would then be, if we buy it,
We
yeah,
don't.
we're responsible,
Right.
we either have to have a contract or pay
Yeah.
for repairs.
Right.
And then the other project in the priority C is the survey and analysis of the library environment at 6,900. So what this would do would evaluate both the interior and exterior to understand what kind of environmental impacts are there, such as lead paint, asbestos, and mold. But as we mentioned, the reason why this was put at a priority C, yes, it'd be great to have that information, but once you have that information, are you now required to act on it?
On it, yeah.
There are two other projects that the committee took no action on, primarily due to the fact that they were essentially pulled back. the Christian Lane culvert replacement. This is to finalize that design. The only reason why that was pulled back was not because that project won't move forward, but because highway and community development are looking at grant money instead of using town capital money to finish that design. And then the new senior center building was brought to the CIPC, but acknowledgement was they likely won't need to. They're not ready to request money in this FY 26. But we discussed what that project could. look
We're
like.
pretty, I don't think we're ready to hear those kind of numbers.
Scares you.
So those are the capital projects, those are the priority levels. We will be able to also talk through those capital requests at the next
Yeah.
finance, and you'll be able to vote on those as well. A note too, when it comes to capital projects, you're not just voting on which ones you want to move forward, you're also voting on how you want to suggest the funding.
Okay.
Whether it be from appropriations, raising, or if you're gonna use free cash.
Right.
Or if you want the town to bond or
Mhm.
borrow, or CEC,
We will know the personnel numbers at that meeting.
here's hoping.
Very good.
Here's
All
hoping,
right,
yes.
thank you, Pete. Nice job.
Thank you.
Any general questions? No? Okay, so I have a motion to
I
adjourn.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Select board,
We're continuing.
you're continuing. Okay, that's right.
Now you can get back to work.
Joyce, we're gonna mute for just a few.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna give Jess a second to situate. She's just holding us up. We are. We're just continuing.
Well, that's good, that's good.
Yeah, so good conversations continue in the hall.
See ya.
Yeah,
I gotta go.
take care. All right, first item on the agenda for the select board is to review and vote to approve the meeting minutes from February 25th, 2025.
So moved and seconded.
Right. Joyce, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Julie, aye. Set. To review and discuss vendor pay and payroll warrants. Any comments?
None
Or
from me.
questions? None from me. All right. Public comment. Are there any residents who would like to provide public comment? Just a reminder for those watching from home, public comment, public comment section, you may appear and provide comments for up to 3 minutes on items that are not on the agenda. So if there's something you're really feel is important, show up and talk to us about it. New business, personnel. First item is to review, discuss, and vote to post the opening of the highway and building superintendent position. Take it away, Pete.
So we did go through a review of the superintendent, job description. At the request and recommendation of Keith, we made a number of, modifications that was brought to the personnel committee. The personnel committee has reviewed that and approved the updated job description. It was really just to capture a few items that have fallen on or have expanded on that department or that role. Just so that we are fully transparent for the next person. There is one item you will notice in your printout, a red line edit. That came in after the update. It is within the desired minimum qualifications, the education experience. This is really just an updating of the phrasing. We had it as class 2A hydraulic license. It's now referred to as a class 2A hoisting license. So this doesn't have to go back to personnel committee to correct that wording. So if the board agrees to post, I would just, if you would agree to correcting that one phrasing, I would use that revised version for the job posting. There's 2 other questions though before we agree to post for the job. The first is, my recommendation that we post the opening with a deadline of April 4th. So I would post tomorrow with applying by April 4th and setting the salary as up to the current budgeted item, not confirming that it would definitely be that because we haven't gone through personnel, but we at least know what our budget is. So if the board agrees, we would simply say up to and what that dollar amount is right now. And then also we should determine who we would like to be on the selection committee. A couple recommendations would be to include Keith. Keith has agreed to be on the selection committee. He doesn't want to necessarily make a recommendation on the individual, but does want to evaluate and provide some guidance on those that are applying. There was also a suggestion that we look at a town resident who has building experience. Since this job is not just highway, it's also building superintendent. One of them happens to have been at this meeting tonight, JD, who serves on a number of other committees, including the finance committee. It would be great if we could ask him to serve on that committee in order to provide some of that building experience. But then we would also likely want a select board member and probably one of the chiefs. My suggestion would be JP because we've used Jim previously, so maybe we switch it up, but just some thoughts.
They sound good.
I will volunteer for the select board since I need the highway department liaison.
Fred. Fabulous.
With your consent, of course.
It all sounds good. It all sounds great.
It sounds logical that I do.
Yes. I would agree. Joyce, do you have any questions or comments about any of this?
I think what Pete proposes is reasonable, and I'm happy to have Fred represent the select board on that search committee.
Pete, I see that in the job description sort of formally incorporated the building superintendent positions in with the highway. They had sort of been separated or
Yeah,
slammed together.
slammed together, yeah.
formally incorporated rather than slammed together.
Right.
Sounds good. All right, do I have a
Generous
motion?
policy, yes.
Well,
Move we-
I would move that the board approve the job opening for the highway and building superintendent position as amended.
Second,
Hey, Joyce, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fred?
aye,
Julie? Aye.
with the recommendation that be
With
posted
the
tomorrow.
recommendation that Pete posted tomorrow. And fingers crossed that we get some very good applicants. Where am I now? To review, discuss, and vote to post the opening of the treasurer collector position. Excuse me.
So. Somewhat similar, though there a slight adjustment on the process. The treasurer collector job description, it has not gone to personnel committee. There are some minor edits that I'm gonna request to the personnel committee, primarily in the work schedule. The existing job description states that it is approximately 20 hours per week. I want to strike that and have it set at full, just saying full-time work. We won't say the number of hours just in case we do an adjustment, but we say it's a full-time position, and then also making the selection guidelines consistent with our other job descriptions, which is that the hiring procedures would be set forth in the town personnel policies and procedures. That just makes it consistent. Then there is one correction, grammatical correction, page 2 at the top of page 2, it should be ensures rather than insures. Well, otherwise, Amy didn't have it, not to call you out,
No, that's okay.
no other recommended edits.
Was this updated when you took the job
Yes.
from that? So this is
Yeah.
not particularly old job
It is
description
not.
anyway.
And I would bring this to the personnel committee next week on the 20th, but if the board agrees for posting, I can hold off obviously until that, and that way, once the personnel committee finalizes the revision, I can post the very next day.
Let me clarify, you're asking us to vote on this
To,
description with the amendments, and if they are approved by.
to agree to post the job pending personnel committee.
Pending, got it, yeah. I would move that we,
Oh, and
Oh.
similar to the other one, I would also suggest that we simply say that the pay is up to the current budgeted item.
right,
Again, not committing ourselves to that, but just acknowledging what the budget is. The deadline, because I won't be posting it until a week later, I would actually make it applying by April 11th, but
okay, so you're gonna change that.
yeah.
The deadline to 25, okay. I would move that the board approve the job opening for treasurer collector position pending review by personnel committee.
Second.
Okay, Fred, how do you vote?
Aye.
Joyce,
Aye.
Julie, aye.
Would we want on the selection committee for this? Amy, would you want to if, oh no, the deadline is your last day. So Amy can't be part of this one. Unless you want to volunteer your.
Me as on the selection committee as a citizen, not an employee.
Certainly that, yeah. I can't commit to anything
Yeah.
like that right now.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, that would be. Could be
Could
great.
also ask and see if Lynn is interested.
Yeah, was my thought too.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I will serve as. select
No.
board
yeah, I was gonna say, Fred, I think,
Yeah, it's not there again.
Are we allowed to have two of us? I've never been.
Oh, well, if you wanna do it.
well, you
I've never
couldn't,
been on-
because then you would be making a quorum,
Ah,
so
okay,
only
But
one.
you can do it in my place.
in your stead?
Yeah.
Are you willing to give that up? Okay,
So we'll do Julie, I'll ask Lynn, I'm sure she'll be open to it. Myself, and then is there somebody else that you think we could? Or think should be part of
somebody
it?
from finance? Paul Newland or?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, finance is about figuring out the budget, and the treasurer collector is about just making sure the bills get paid, making sure the taxes get collected. It's not really about they're not setting policy about what we're gonna spend the money on. It's like, what do we decide? And then how do we pay that and stay within the law and do all the stuff we're supposed to do? So I don't know that finance committee is necessarily needed to be called on for that.
Point taken.
What about our town accountant?
I know, I was thinking that, the
Oh,
problem
Dara.
is that Dara is allotted only a certain number of hours through FERCog, and then when she becomes an employee,
Right,
it'd probably be easier for us to do that, but
yeah.
I hate that. I could ask her, but yeah,
Three people is probably adequate for
Yeah. I
you,
would-
Julie, and Lynn. If you.
yeah,
That's
okay.
okay. Cool. Next item, to review, discuss and vote on the request to adjust the assistant treasurer collector hours.
So the request came in, from our treasurer collector to increase the number of hours per week for Maureen, who is our assistant treasurer collector. Currently, Maureen works 10 hours per week. By increasing the hours only until, the time that Amy, leaves, it will allow for greater more cross training. So that Maureen is brought up on some of those tasks in order to cover that role in that department, after the time that Amy leaves and before we get a new treasurer collector. With an increase of 6 hours per week, that would be an additional cost of $171.84 per week. And if we started this on March 17th, until April 11th, it essentially would be just under $700 of an added cost.
Yeah.
If the board agrees.
I have a question about that. We're not expecting that on April 12th, we're gonna have a new treasure collector, right? I mean, it's gonna take some time for the committee to interview people and so on. So why are we stopping this at April 12th? Are we not expecting that we might need our assistant treasure collector for a few more hours a week after Amy's gone and before the new person's hired?
Where's that?
That's a good point.
I think it is crucial to have someone in that office at least 30 hours a week. We have some big things coming up. We're gonna have fourth quarter taxes due May 1st. We have open enrollment for insurance coming up on April 17th. We have another motor vehicle batch coming out which is a significantly large batch on March 14th. Give or take a few weeks after that, it will go out, but
I mean, we need to get a new treasure collector in there as quickly as possible, but I don't
Yes.
understand having a gap, having her go back to 10 hours a week during the time while we're still trying to hire somebody.
It makes no sense, and I would say, increase the role until the new treasurer collector is hired.
Yeah,
If
the
she's
reason why I
willing.
positioned it this way was simply because we know that we're paying 2 employees up till April 11th.
Mhm.
After that, we're paying 1 employee. And the savings that we
Right.
have in not paying the other role can certainly compensate
Right.
added hours. It was more of for a period of 5 weeks, 6 weeks, there will be an added cost on those 2 line items, or that 1 line item against the other line item. But it doesn't mean that we would have to go back. The problem that we do have to acknowledge though is that Maureen has limited hour availabilities. We could not increase her to 30 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Cause she works also for Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we should have to revisit this and
oh, yeah,
have another vote after it will. So
Sure.
I would just say, so treasurer collector's hired, and we'll work out the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
how it gets paid for
do
exactly.
you
at the
think
time.
that she would be open to the added hours beyond the 11?
I do with the support and expectation that she's not gonna know it all. And I think that's a concern of hers, that there's an understanding that she's not gonna know it
She's
all.
not
and gonna
you.
Do the best she can, and
Great.
just as long as she has the support, I think she'd be okay with the additional hours that fit within her schedule as a brother.
Is Lynn still working hours?
Lynn?
Yeah, is she working in the building at all?
Lynn, has suggested, that she could come back in there for a short period of time. limited hours, but that she would be.
I know Lynn is limited, I think, to 18 hours a
Yes,
week.
you're right, but she has shown interest in wanting to help keep the town afloat and for a limited time, she said.
Right.
So, but she
Mhm.
did say she'd be more than willing to help out if needed.
Okay, it sounds like then that period from April 12th to whenever the new person's hired, we have a couple of options that you guys are gonna sort out the best way to do that. You guys mainly being Pete. And you'll sort that out and it's probably gonna fit within the budget that we've got, more or less. It maybe
Yeah,
be $171 a week more for the next few weeks. It could be of that order later on as well. I don't know.
As discussed before, that can be a reserve fund transfer as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Okay, understood.
I would suggest you either hire Lynn for that period or work out a consulting contract or something. Because Lynn knows the system, obviously, I mean, doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
Is that something we should take up at a next meeting or?
I think
or
if
within the-
you talk to Lynn about interviewing, that's another thing to talk to her about, is
Like it's
sort of formalizing her being available for consulting.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
I
Oh.
move we approve the increase of hours for the assistant treasurer collector for the period between now and the new treasurer collector is hired.
Second,
Joyce, how do you vote?
aye.
Fred?
I
Julie? Aye. Excellent. And last, on personnel, to review, discuss, and vote on the recommendation of the appointment of planning board ZBA administrative assistant. We have a recommendation. We had
Looks awesome.
applications. Yeah,
We had 30 applications. We shortlisted the 6, interviewed 4. Oh no, we interviewed 3 because 1 didn't show up. We were planning to have 4. 1 didn't show up. 2 had accepted other roles just before we got to the interviews. In the end, we're recommending John Jensen. Stood out as a top candidate based on the interview and the resume. He has experience in educational positions, but is currently working in administration for a health center where he organizes and schedules employees, handles payroll and marketing, does outbound communications, and works with school districts. He has experience reading through and dissecting city regulations and rules, and is excited to help organize the files for the boards.
and for this position at his current job, the hours be increased within 6 weeks of taking his position. At which point we will need to do it
find
again.
another one.
Well, thankfully, that, even if that happened, it is a 9 to 5 type of facility, or that role, if it was to be increased, that the DC needs shouldn't be impacted, but
This
yes.
position has had
Let's,
its, has
don't
had its
jinx us,
issues.
Fred.
Stop, Fred, stop.
I know.
This sounds good and we hope it sticks. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board appoint John Jensen as the part-time planning board ZBA administrative assistant.
Second,
Fred, how do you vote?
I,
Julie, aye. Joyce?
Aye.
Okey-doke. Town meeting to review and discuss current drafts of warrants for both the annual and the special town meetings.
So the drafts are provided to you. We'll look at the special real quick. It is a single article. It's simply for the prior fiscal years. It's 2 invoices with a total of $1,345.68. One of them being for KP Law. Weirdly enough, it's an invoice from 2023 that they never sent us until this past December, I think it
Yeah,
was, and we
it
were
was.
like, well, that's very old.
Interesting.
And then we did have some plumbing work that was done at the town hall. It was done during May and June. Although, and then unfortunately didn't bill us until late into the current fiscal year, and because the work was done in the previous fiscal year, we do have to do it as a prior fiscal year bill. And that was $1,200. So those are those two line items. It's just that one article for that special. Moving on to the annual. I don't know, do you want me to go through all of them?
No.
Okay.
No.
God.
I'll just quickly summarize then. Currently, there are 21 articles. Articles 1 through 9 are your standard articles. Board reports, borrowing approval, contract approval, whatnot. Establishing revolving fund limits and operating budgets both for the water department and the town budget. So those 9 are your very standard year-to-year articles. Articles 10, 11, and 12, these are potential financial transfers using free cash to reduce the tax levy, fund the vehicle stabilization fund, as well as capital stabilization fund. Tax levy, I believe, has to come as a recommendation of the Board of Assessors. Is that correct? You have the Board of Assessors tell you how much money that they would recommend to use in order to reduce the tax levy?
No, that's
Oh,
come out of the finance committee.
oh, okay. And then the finance committee will also determine the vehicle and capital stabilization funding requests.
Or any other staple.
Yeah, or yeah. if we have
Building
that
or general or.
yeah. Article 13, my proposal is to handle capital projects in one article rather than, 10 separate articles? You can do this, each line item can be taken up as a separate item, you just can combine them and then we don't have multiple pages. But Article 13 would be the capital projects, whatever comes out of the recommendation.
Should you split out ones that are gonna be coming out of free cash from those that are gonna come as CPA?
You can do that, however, CPA will be put in at Article 15. So it is already being separated out.
Oh,
for
okay,
CPA.
okay.
But when it comes to the capital projects that are not CPA, we will stipulate if it is, each line item is coming out of free cash or borrowing or whatever you. Most of them are probably coming out of free cash, but you would stipulate when you do combine them, you do say the funding source for each one.
The column that is currently blank will be
Correct,
filled.
it would have to be filled, we have to wait for FinCom to make the decision
Okay.
or recommendation. So that's 13 articles, 14 and 15 are CPA, so 14 is the standard one, setting essentially the community preservation budget for their fiscal year. And then currently there is one project for CPA funding, which is Article 15. Articles 16 and 17 are tied together. The first Article 16 is amending the general bylaw by creating a revolving fund for the fire department. Remember, we tried to do this at the special town meeting and then town council said, you cannot do that. It has to only be done at the annual town meeting. So guess what? We're doing an annual town meeting. So this is to amend the bylaw, create that revolving fund. Essentially, any fees that are collected from the fire department based on inspections and whatnot go into that revolving fund, and then they can use it for trainings and equipment. They cannot use it for salary.
I seem to remember, and maybe I'm incorrect about this, that this was a 3-part vote at special time.
At one point, that was true
Okay.
because it was creating the revolving fund, it was dissolving the previous fund,
Uh-huh.
and then it was moving those funds to the other one. The dissolving already happened. That
Okay.
is a matter of town accountant. They already vacated that fund.
All right.
So that leaves us to Article 17. That money was moved to free cash, that 3,900, I think it was moved to free cash. And so Article 17 is saying, hey, this wasn't the previous fund, it moved to free cash. Will you agree to move that now into the revolving fund so that the fire department essentially is made whole?
Thank you.
Article 18 is to amend the floodplain overlay district and get us in line with state requirements. It also includes updating and approving the FEMA firm map, the flood insurance rate map, which we need to adopt in order for property owners to be eligible for flood insurance. This is a wholesale redeveloping of that chapter because our current chapter is woefully out of compliance. So it does get us up to date. And then Article 19 is a zoning bylaw amendment that essentially is creating a new use called marijuana product light manufacturer. It's considered an industrial use, a light industrial use. So it creates that use, it defines the use, and then it establishes where that can be done, which would be in the commercial, industrial, and the industrial district by special permit. It is a very limited allowance as to what can be done there. But what it would mean is that this use would then become allowable by special permit in any of the commercial zones. Primary driving element is DMC owns property at the Sugarloaf shops thing. I was gonna say lofts and then I need the Sugarloaf shops. Where they do want to do some of this manufacturing. So it would allow for that building to then go from vacant to actually being operational. So that is that amendment there. And then the last two articles, the first one, Article 20, the FERCog is doing an amendment to their charter. Essentially, it's simply a lot of house cleaning doing to the charter. The charter hasn't been amended since the original creation of the FERCog in the 90s, 97, I think it was. And so it's getting rid of some of the antiquated phrases like Board of Selectmen, as well as getting rid of some other older positions that the FERCog doesn't utilize any longer. It more clearly identifies how you can be part of the FERCog as well as how you can leave the FERCog. And then the Franklin Regional Planning Board is amended to be an advisory planning board because that's all they are, is advisory. They have no functional regulatory rights like our community planning boards do. And so it's simply to make sure that people understand that that planning board is simply advisory. And so it's really a title change, and then it takes up some of the language of that chapter. There is a good PowerPoint that they had put together that I'm happy to walk through at town meeting that really just kind of summarizes these edits. But that's all that Article 20 is. It does require whenever there's a charter amendment to the FERCog or any of the Council of Governments, it requires a 2/3 approval of all of members in that council. So 2/3 of the Franklin regional communities need to agree to the charter change. And so they're all being taken up at this spring. And then the last article is the adoption of the HERO Act optional tax exemptions. You'll remember the board agreed to the veteran tax exemptions. It does require a legislative action though, so it does mean that the town meeting has to be the final ones to say. So because the board agreed with it, we're putting it on as an article for a annual town meeting.
Cool.
Any question?
No question. I was talking with a town resident who indicated that there might be at least one citizen initiated article.
Okay.
That's, look out for that.
Do we know the content review?
It, I think, deals with appointments to various boards. Like who makes the appointments?
Oh.
Moderator appointments versus select board or whatever.
Okay.
No other discussion? Select board liaison updates. Go for it, Joyce.
I got nothing today.
Oh,
I know.
all right, Fred.
All I have is South County EMS meeting. The chief presented the goals and priorities for the coming year. Technically, we don't really have anything to say about that. It would be approved by the Deerfield Town Board because they are the supervisory body for South County
Fiduciary.
EMS. But we talked about it, the Deerfield representatives when it's finalized by the chief, he's gonna send it to Deerfield, and then they will send it to Sunderland and us for comments. So you can see what EMS chief is looking to do, where he set priorities. If we have any comments, we can send them to the Deerfield Select Board.
Cool.
So we're getting that document.
We should be, the preliminary was what came through last week or the week before.
No, they didn't give us a document. They simply, at least what I was just told that it's coming, but I've never.
Right.
received anything.
Right, okay, so it's still coming.
Oh, it's still, okay,
Presumably.
okay.
All right, thank you. Let's see, library, I am meeting with Cindy on Thursday. I've been catching up with folks in the front office. I'll be meeting with Jess later this week. Met with Amy today. Really fun to find out what she's doing and the kinds of courses that she's taking to become registered, certified as a town clerk in Massachusetts. It's gonna take a while to get there, but she's really excited about it. And one thing that I took away from that meeting was she said, I just love the people of this town. So all of you, she loves you. And the water committee met this morning and they are tight on their budget as expected, but they're actually doing pretty well. They are required by the EPA to do hang on, I've got the word, digital security assessment. They got like a 20-page printout that they have to answer questions. The risk in a town this small is really quite minimal. It's something that's aimed at larger cities. But that's something they've got on their plate. Otherwise, everything is good over there. Swimmingly, flowingly, etc. Town administrator updates.
Just a few. The first one is with regards to the fire department, and the window project that was approved for ARPA funding. When I printed this, it was that it was still being worked on. As of this morning, I found out it is now done and the windows are great.
Cool.
So all set there. The future looks like Whately Pollinator Project. The second community meeting was held last week, 14 attendees. The meeting included a presentation and breakout sessions. It ended with a survey for attendees. That's been released to the public as well. Both online and paper versions are available, and the project webpage on the town website has the presentation file, photos from the event, a link to the survey, and eventually we'll also have the video from that posted so that people can watch the video.
Cool. I went online and took the survey. I encourage everybody to do the same.
Let me see, Governor Healy was holding transportation infrastructure roundtable. It was a transportation roadshow that happened. And a little over a week ago, she came to Franklin County, where we actually met at Conway, the library in Conway. We met with Governor Healy. It was 20 or over 20 town administrators that were there, along with FERCog, bringing us all together. We focused on talking about our issues in dealing with and maintaining infrastructure and transportation within the region, as well as commitments that the administration is making, such as the $8 billion transportation funding plan and reforms to Chapter 90. We talked about issues with infrastructure and limitations on that Chapter 90 funding. Need to change that formula, which, by the way, the change in the formula is that originally it used to be based on not just the road mileage and the road miles in a community, but also the population. So if you had a lot of road miles but a low population, you got limited Chapter 90 money. The reality is what the cost to maintain those roads is essentially the same, so they're getting rid of the population element, which will help to kind of even the playing field now.
That's good.
Also, the significant amount of time that can happen when a project becomes TIP funded, because now it has to go through more regulation, more process, more engineering costs, more reviews.
What does TIP stand for?
Transportation Improvement Program. It's a
Okay.
federal funding that's done, and the monies go to the state and the states divvy it out. But yeah,
And we'll see how that
Yeah, that's one of the, yes.
Yeah.
Another area that could have, yeah, some problems. In the end, it was a very positive meeting. What was really great was the governor really intended to be there to listen. She wanted to hear all the feedback from the communities, really wanted to get an understanding where Franklin County was and the concerns here. A point was brought up that in Franklin County, we have a significant visitor. What was the phrasing used? Essentially,
Load. is what I
a
was
visitor
thinking.
load in the area that exceeds what Martha's Vineyard sees, and yet Martha's Vineyard gets significantly more money. But we have, although we don't have the population, we actually get a significant amount of visitors through the year, especially during leaf peeping season, that we still have the wear and tear,
Yeah.
which kind of spoke to like the change in the calculation. Since that meeting, we did receive a letter confirming that in FY 2026, the town will receive $2,246,294.55.
Do you have to know offhand what our allocation for fiscal year 25 was?
Right, let's compare.
Yeah, yeah, same
But-
question.
Yeah, I don't have
Times
that.
3.
And finally, town hall on Friday afternoon of February 28th, we had an issue at the town hall where the septic system did back up. There was a clog in the septic line. We don't know if it had been an old clog or whatnot, but unfortunately it did back up. The line was then cleared on Sunday. It did mean that we had to cancel events on Sunday and Monday. The bathrooms were then cleaned on Monday and the building went back into full operation on Tuesday. And that is it.
All right, any items not anticipated? And is there a motion?
Move to adjourn
Second,
to our next meeting in 2 weeks on 25th,
No, next week,
Next
week.
joint meeting.
Joint meeting.
Joint meeting, and we don't follow up with,
No.
Right.
all righty. Joyce, how do you vote?
aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Julie, aye, thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.